Chapter 2, Corrie ten Boom, The Hiding Place. Let's start with chapter 2. It is called Full Table. We are going to jump back in time, picking up when Corrie's about 6 years old and kind of establishing what her childhood was like. We get to meet her aunts, this kind of thing. Our scriptural theme is Matthew 6:34. I've got it here. It says, "Therefore, do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble." So we're going to keep that in the back of our minds as we move forward and read/answer these questions about chapter 2. All right, what was Tante? That's Aunt Jan's. I do think that's Jan's. What was Tante Jan's belief on work and life? The answer is on page 34. It says, Tante Jan's believed that our welfare in the hereafter, so our welfare after life, depended on how much we could accomplish here on earth. Sounds like a lot of workspace legalism to me, not very gospel-centered. So that kind of gives you a hint pretty quickly about this particular aunt. But what's great is that we have a lot more to learn about her. All right, question 2. Corrie doesn't want to go to school, but her father takes her by the hand and makes her go. How does this symbolize God taking her by the hand? It's this beautiful moment where she doesn't want to go to school and she's holding on to something, and her father's like, "Oh, I'll walk her." And he goes over and he like pries her hand off and he takes her puts her little hand in his. And she has this beautiful moment where she reflects and she's like, "Oh, Father's hand in mine. That means, trips on the train and going to see the ducks at the park," or whatever it is. These beautiful kind of like moments that she has where her father takes her by the hand and all these really lovely memories. But then she acknowledges, but now he's taking my hand and he's taking me where I don't want to go, right? Father has my hand, but he's leading me somewhere where I don't want to go. So this is such a beautiful illustration of God does such wonderful and generous and kind things with us. And everything he does is that, but it looks very gentle and pleasing to us, right? Like God's so kind to us and so generous, and so very often when he takes us by the hand, he leads us to beautiful, right? Like to green pastures by still waters, those types of things. But sometimes he takes us by the hand and he walks us through the valley of the shadow of death. Sometimes he takes us by the hand and we go places that in our flesh we do not want to go. We don't want to be there because it's hard and it hurts. But even still, our hand is in the Lord's and he leads us to these places. So it's this kind of like, it's really good when God takes us by the hand, but we have to be willing to accept the hard things also. And knowing that in either situation, our hand is in our Father's, so we can trust him. Question 3, when Casper and Corrie would go to Amsterdam to check the time, while they were there, who would they visit? So they would go and visit other merchants, suppliers for the pieces of the watchmaking and stuff that he did, contacts that he had in Amsterdam, and they would meet with, very often with Jews. A lot of the suppliers would be Jews, and they would come in and they would kind of talk business and be polite, and then what they would do is Casper and the Jewish person, the Jewish other shop owner, would get into these like debates, into these like biblical debates of Torah versus Bible, and can Christ be proved, can Jesus be proved to be the Christ, these types of things, these debates. But they were done with like joy and admiration for one another. Like they're not like bitter, embattled kind of debates. It's very much pictured as, and they're just like having a good friendly competition almost. And then she would later talk about that she would get like candy and stuff. So that's like her big takeaway as a little kid. It's okay, we're going. And then she would get like these treats and stuff. But I'm asking this because I want you to see that that they're not Jewish and don't have any Jewish family. They still have a heart for the Jews and have relationships with Jewish people. And in fact, later, I can't remember if it's in this book or another book I read about the ten Boom family, they talk about how one of those Jewish contacts that they had in Amsterdam smuggled in all of these books and scrolls that had Torah and all kinds of lessons from rabbis all of this like scholarship of the Torah and of the Jewish religion, smuggled them to the Ten Boons to hide in the Bayed and to keep safe there, because they so trusted them to be a safe place. So obviously for stuff, and then of course for actual literal Jews too, and other people. So they had a long established history with having relationships with Jewish people, and not being like, okay, well, you're Jewish, that's the same thing as Christian, like debating with them, right? Like wanting them to accept Christ, but at the same time still loving them, and caring for them and having relationships with them. Okay, so that's question 3 and question 4, because I was then asking question 4, what happened at these visits? And I just told you. Question 5, while on the train home, Corey's father teaches her about knowledge too heavy for children to carry. What does he use to teach this? So this is where Corey asks about what is sex sin, right? Like she's asking a question she has no idea. She asked her mother, and her mother turned bright red and was like, go ask your father, or whatever she said. So her father does something really brilliant. And what he does is he has the big heavy suitcase with all the watch parts and stuff, and says, here, come pick this up. And she can't, of course, she's a little girl. And he goes, that's exactly what it's like when you try to carry knowledge too heavy for you, right? A good father won't give that to you. So it's this beautiful picture of God can know things that he just doesn't tell us yet, right? He can know that hard things are coming in the future. He can he can hold all of these weighty things because he's strong enough, but he only gives to us in measure what we can carry in that moment, what we need for that day. You know, we don't have to borrow tomorrow's trouble, right? Relating back to our theme verse, we don't have to know the future and plan for the future and do all of these things. We can trust that God holds the future, and that whatever weight I need to carry, I can carry in that moment, and he'll be right there with me in it. So the suitcase analogy, we will come back to that and back to that and back to that, because that is throughout the book. So the rest of that was, how does that teach us to relate God's knowledge and what he reveals to us, which is he only reveals what he reveals in time, when we can hold it and carry it. He never gives us too much in the sense of overwhelm us, but certainly always keeps us dependent on him. Okay, question 6. What is Cornelia, that's Corey's mother, what is her work with the poor, and why would this seem odd to someone? I love this. Corey's mother is one of my favorite people in this book. Her father's made a lot of, because he's really important, and Corey's mother dies before the events of World War II, so she's not featured as much, but she's one of my favorite people because she's so generous and giving and gentle, right? She has this beautiful ministry where she makes, pots of soup and takes them to the poor, and she writes notes and letters of encouragement to shut-ins, and she knits, and she does all of these beautiful things so that she can give, so that she can be so generous, right? Again, this family is incredibly generous, and what's so odd about it is that she's poor. She's sick. She's a shut-in sometimes, she has really poor health. She has a hard time getting out of bed, and on days when she does get out of bed, she makes soup for other people that can't get out of bed, right? It's this kind of funny, she's taking care of others even though she's very similarly afflicted to them. And so it's great. It's this idea of you can give out of your lack and out of your weakness. You don't have to be completely put together and be like a picture of health before you can go and help somebody else who's sick, right? You don't have to know everything about the Bible before you can talk to somebody about the Bible. You can be weak and lack and suffer in areas and still be incredibly generous in those same areas. It's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful picture. I know I say that a lot. It's such a beautiful picture, because it is, of just what a real generous spirit and a hospitality spirit looks like, right? How do you have this incredible gifting in hospitality and yet you're bedridden so often? What it is that you're still writing people notes, and you're still sending gifts as much as you can, and when you're not bedridden, you are making pots of soup for people. So I love this. Okay, question 7. What was Corey's reaction to her first encounter with death? If I were to put it in a few words, I would say she was chilled by it, right? It chilled her deep inside. I can't even imagine how hard that must have been to see a newborn baby dead like that. And she touched the hand, and she was just chilled. She was shook. She was shocked by it, and it stirred her, and it made her deal with something that very often we don't deal with till much later in life, which is that death is real. Like it's really going to happen to us and to those that we love. And so she's very distraught, like children do. She's mostly thinking about, what if my dad dies? What if my mom dies, right? Like, I need you can't leave. And so she's kind of confronted with this truth, and she's very disturbed. But her father comes and comforts her. Question 8, how does her father comfort her in her fear of her family dying? This is on page 44, and he tells her about the train ticket. He says, when we go to Amsterdam, when do I give you your train ticket? Do I give it to you way before? And it's like, no, I give it to you when you need. So this is another example of that, the suitcase. It's like God carries these heavy and important things for us, and he does not put them on us or put them in our hand until we're ready, until it's in his perfect timing that we know these things, that we do these things. And again, we were talking about in the last chapter, he prepares us. He prepares these things all along so that when the time comes, our hearts are steady and we know how to lean and depend on God. It's not like he gives us these things and now we don't need him. It's that he's trained us and taught us how to lean on him whenever he gives us these heavy things or these important things that we need to hold on to. So he's just assuring her, how does this relate to Matthew 6:34? He's assuring her that you don't have to worry about this now. You don't have to worry about this right now. God knows when it will happen, and when it does, you're going to have everything you need. You're going to have all of the supply of grace that you need. You don't need to worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow will have grace for tomorrow, and today has grace for today. So when your parents die, because basically all of our parents will die before we do, right? Like, that's a very common thing, and that's the best answer, right? Like, that's what you want, is for your parents to die before you or your siblings do. That when they do die, there's grace in that moment, in that day for it, and you don't have to have the grace for that when you're 8 or 40 like I am, or whatever age. You can have the grace for that in that time. So there's no need to dwell on and think about those things, because when you need it, your Heavenly Father will give it to you. Okay, so the rest of 8 was reflect on how this could help you face life of uncertainty. So I did that. I'm always going to answer these questions before I actually read out what the question is, because they just came as my brain went, and my brain will answer it before I even think to ask the question. Okay, 9. As always, last question is, was there any word, phrase, or idea that stuck out to you in this chapter? I'm trying to think. There's a really important thing that really struck out to me. I think just the whole, her not wanting to go to school, and the whole dynamics of their family, as she has her mother, her father, and her 3 aunts living with her. So they were very interesting dynamics. And I think the fact that Corey's mother's so sweet, and her aunt, Anna, if I remember correctly, Anna is also very sweet and gentle. And her other 2 aunts are different, right? And so you can be raised in the same home with the same values and get radically different people. And that's what you see with Corey's mother and her three sisters, the 4 of them. Or I guess Cornelia and Anna are quite similar, but the other 2 are very, very, very different. And so it really is a work in the heart and a work of the Holy Spirit that makes people, these kind of gentle, tender, generous people that they are. So that's something that stuck out of me. So that was Full Table. That is chapter 2. Let's go, and I'll see you at chapter 3.